Hello, bienvenue, and welcome. You've joined us once again at the Infinite Escape Room, but this is the pubisode, where we will have a cheeky little drink and a chat about the last couple of episodes and the puzzles therein. You are now joining us at a little tipple place I call the Cog and Marrow, which is where the Rotary Club members like to hang out after their long days of chanting and fixing floorboards and fucking each other to death, which is lovely. My name is Jamie Gibbs, and as always, I am drinking a Nid Hogger Mead. It is a sour cherry flavour I picked up at the UK Games Expo, and it's lovely. And joining me, of course, as always, are our trio of wonderful co-producers. Please, what are you drinking?
I'm Jonathan David Charles Saunders II. I'm drinking Saint Etienne, which is Aldi's fake Stella Artois, which is the same. It's reliable. It's cheap, so it's unlike me in both ways. And you know what? It's perfectly fine lager. And I'd bet that if you blind taste tested that versus Stella Artois, no one would know the damn difference.
9 out of 10 skinheads can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
And I'm Ben Lavery-Griffiths, and this week I am sampling a lovely tipple of water with a slice of lemon in it.
Oh.
You fancy bastard.
You being a responsible adult.
But it's Welsh water.
It is Welsh water.
It's Welsh water, which means it's probably the only clean water left.
And it did, the jug that I have, it was like half ice this morning, and it is now no longer has any ice in it at all.
And I'm Mike, and I am at long last drinking a Brewdog cold beer lager. It's very basic bitch
Such a
lager.
terrible name for a beer.
That's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a nice light lager. It's exactly what I fancy, and this sip is going to be
it's actually called cold beer lager.
Yeah, hang on. Oh my
That's
God,
wonderful.
that's amazing. That's exactly what I wanted.
Is this their new session one that's very light?
Yeah, it's just a 3.4% big tin. It's exactly what I fancied.
See, that's lovely.
Lovely.
Even the Saint Etienne is 4.6, and I there is room in my life for a very, very, very light beer.
Yeah, I'd recommend this. It's very
Just-
tasty. And it's like £7 for a box in Tesco's at the moment.
Nice. So, the past few episodes, if you've not listened to them, please go back and do so. Otherwise, this is going to make a lick of fucking sense to you.
Yep, these have been the first of our first recording style.
That added some clarity,
we went
John.
back
Well
to
done.
the first format for the new format. So rather than one person presenting an entire episode every time, we've each delivered a slither of a certain theme, just to make things easier on our lives and our very, very time-poor existences. So this theme was stuck in a Rotary Club, where we investigated the hall itself, a side kitchen, and a sex dungeon hidden beneath the ground floor, I suppose. That's where basements generally are.
Yes, I went first, and I conducted you through the hall, and it was all about the floorboards, which I felt a little bit bad about because it was quite a basic bitch puzzle, but with a twist. So just to remind listeners, because this would have been a few weeks ago for you, the floorboards creaked as you marched across the hall, which gave you the order in which they creaked, gave you the code for the first box, which got you the manner in which you could fix the floorboards, and the order of them going back got you the second lockbox, but you had to reverse the order. So going forward, it was, I think, the second, third, the sixth, and the eighth floorboard, and going back, the second, the fourth, the seventh, and the eighth. There were some pictures on the walls of the Rotary Club logo through its development, and they were all real. And that was the real sequence of the Rotary Club's logos development. So there's a nice little bit of history. All the years in those descriptions were also all real, and the reasons. That was all completely legit. And that got you the second lockbox, which got you your vows. And there was an awful lot of mucking around, staring at the pictures, deciding if the number of spokes or whether one was a cog or a wheel or whatnot was the answer, or whether you could take Halifax and make fix, and was fix a 4-letter word.
So just because it was a little while ago that we did it, several weeks ago that we did the puzzle. Were the aside from
good job.
Aside from being nice, relevant history, what was the tie-in to the puzzle itself, or was there not?
The purpose of the pictures was that the order of them in the room was the path you had to take through the room. So if you took the oldest picture, or the picture of the original logo, started there, went forward to the next one, then the order of them would take you back. So it told you basically your journey through.
I see. Whereas I think we just walked from the front of the room to the back of the room, and then back again, effectively.
And back again. Yes, which is fine.
I was like, my snap review was, "Where's my signposting, John?" Followed by the words, "You fuck." I realised if I'd drawn it out, that would have given me the signposting.
Mm.
Yes, it would have.
I maintain the pictures themselves were utterly irrelevant, but if I'd drawn it out, I would have had my signposting. I was taking notes on an iPad at that point because my notebook was in the other room.
Yeah.
I think I didn't get the order of the Rotary posters at all. I think because I didn't draw it out, I'd written the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 in barely legible chicken scratch, with vague shapes that resembled the posters that you'd shared.
We did discuss their location. I believe Ben asked me about their exact location of the room, and I very carefully said which one was nearest on which wall and furthest away, and I gave you the locations very carefully.
You did, and just to go to the note taking piece, because Mike and Jamie have already commented, I did draw it down, but I drew it down wrong.
No,
that's my guy. Because I had them all on the same wall at the back, and I was like, "That's fine," because I'll just remember that they're on the left and they're on the right. But then didn't.
I will absolutely take the criticism. The content of the pictures was not relevant. It wasn't relevant. I found some pictures of the Rotary Club logo and its evolution and thought, that's interesting. Maybe that will form part of this. Got them all. And then came up with something completely different that had nothing to do with that.
I think
can I keep these?
In a strange coincidence, I think you pointed out during the episode, Mike, that each of the 4 numbers of the floorboards that we'd fixed for that first puzzle, each of those digits was present only once in each of the 4 years on those pictures. So we're like, that can't be a coincidence, surely.
Yeah, it was a coincidence. It was a complete coincidence. And when you went down that line, I thought, surely he's wrong. And then I brought them up and went, oh, no, he's right. He's found a genuine connection that, had I realised it, would have been quite useful.
I mean, the thing is, I'm in no position to complain about providing extraneous information because I provided 96% extraneous information in my puzzle, so I can't say anything.
Oh no,
you did.
I always think, and maybe you'll take this will be a surprise for my puzzles. I always think that having a little bit more, because if you basically go, you have this, this, and this, and especially if it's sort of quite clear what your objective is. You just put the things together and then boom, you're done. Having some stuff to explore is good.
Absolutely. There's if those 3 things go together in a really sort of incredible way that requires a very specific way of thinking, but is obvious to you once you've done it and has that real kind of, yes, that's how, that moment. If they have that, then brilliant, fantastic. Stick the 3 things in front of the team and watch them squirm, and it's going to be fantastic. But that's quite a high bar. And only occasionally does my brain come up with anything just that crystal clear, with that beautiful simplicity to it. So most of the time, you have to obfuscate a bit. You have to take a thing that works quite simply and then hide it in plain sight or hide it amongst other things.
And that's the fun as well sometimes, isn't it? It's hiding something. Like your mention of the floorboards, which almost passed me by. And I was like, wait a second. Wait a darn tootin' second here.
I think actually, Mike, if you hadn't have said, what about the floorboards, we would have been stuck for another 20 minutes looking at pictures.
Yeah, I didn't consider that.
It's interesting.
At all.
Mike tweaked the floorboards. Ben, did you get the initial order?
I wanted to know if there was anything distinguishing about it, so I surfaced the order.
You surfaced the creak.
Yeah.
Yes, you surfaced them having an order and which ones creaked, and then Jamie did the final bit of heavy lifting.
Yeah, got the reverse order.
And Saunders sent you back towards the entrance, but initially got the numbers wrong because he was using the original numbers he'd written down. Because rather than drawing the floorboards, you wrote down when I said, it's the second one, it's the fourth one.
I literally wrote down numbers.
Yep. Whereas if you write them down...
Yeah, that would have been a 10-minute solve if we'd drawn it.
Yeah.
And it's so easy.
Yep.
You just put the X's down and go, okay, if I number them backwards...
No, fair play, John.
So,
genuinely fair play. Like, you actually had the signposts there you had the clues there for us. The fucking coincidence.
Did we need to fix the floorboards with a hammer and nails?
No. I was going to come up with something from the voice if you didn't do it, because it was about actually And to be fair, the Rotary Club pledge is not the pledge I wrote. The Rotary Club pledge is long and boring, but ends with service above self.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, if I take that, like, your job is to make things right. So if I was being really basic about that, like, can you be a member of the Rotary Club? I'd put you in a situation where something is wrong and you have the power to fix it in a way that will not benefit you, but just sort of needs doing. Do you try and do it?
So it's good that we did.
Do you?
Altruism isn't dead.
You have the power to fix this. Fix the floorboards. And it's nice and mundane, and I like that.
A real escape room could do that a lot. Like, just get some fucking paint and some brushes. Be like, oh, part of the puzzle is you have to paint this wall. Like, yeah, we'd be mean to do that for years. Thanks, guys.
Part of the puzzle is you have to fix this pensioner whose family doesn't come to them anymore.
So yes, I was pleased in the end. I was worried for a bit because for a bit there was a real meander there, and I thought, oh no, they're really focusing on these images. I don't have a way to sort of nudge them out of this.
Why else would he provide us these images?
These very specific images. It was interesting about the progression of the images. The initial Rotary Club logo was a wheel with some cartoon dust clouds around it to suggest movement, and it was all about the wheel as a symbol of work. And then as the thing develops over the next few years, they thought, oh, Cog's actually got more sort of industry to it than a wheel, and it's a bit more interesting. And then they got really cluttered with that Halifax one that's just got so much going on, you can't really look at it. And finally, in 1920, came up with a unified Rotary International one, which is the Cog. And it's still their logo today.
I didn't know that.
After we set our vows, the first step of becoming Rotary Club members, we then wandered into the kitchen for Ben's puzzle.
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to be in the kitchen, and I knew that there had to be something about lint in there. That's basically where I started, and I kind of I had this idea that maybe there wouldn't be marrows there, and you'd have to somehow acquire marrows. For a while, I was thinking along the lines of maybe you'd have to come up with some sort of concoction to very quickly grow a marrow in an unnatural amount of time. I thought it seems just silly, and I couldn't quite put it all together.
We don't do silly on the escape room.
Yeah, I like that. That's wonderful. That you went, no, not possible. 421 kilogram fake pumpkin.
So I wanted the dumbwaiter to be big enough to fit a very, very large pumpkin in, but something that would probably be too small for one of us to crawl in. And so it's 75 centimeters squared, because I figured that would probably be very uncomfortable at most.
Wait, hang on. There were measurements?
No. I did mention it at the end, but in
right.
The backstory to the puzzle, the dumbwaiter is 75 centimeters cubed, which pumpkins are 90% water, and so if you do 90% of cubed, then that is the amount of water you needed. So
wow, that's actual maths. Jesus.
My
kilogram, all of which is not required. Hence why.
So that number you came up with was based on taking the volume of the dumbwaiter.
Taking the volume of the dumbwaiter, putting a spherical object in it, because pumpkins are roughly spherical, and then getting the mass of that.
Miss you so much.
Oh my God.
Also, just a quick interesting thing.
I'd have just punched in numbers.
420 kilos, same weight as your average horse, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Just got a horse.
Could have just got a horse.
I like that you thought you made that dumbwaiter and thought, these assholes are going to try and climb inside this. I need to make it too small. And lo and behold, the first thing we said when you saw the dumbwaiter, let's all fit inside that, the three of us.
But it's too small. Well, good. We like to be close.
At that point, we hadn't got the bin bags.
Exactly.
So we were like, how much newspaper? Oh, heck. I think it was me actually suggesting, why don't the three of us climb in? And then... what was the deal with the shutter?
So again, one of these things that I don't like certain implausibilities. Why would you just have a room that had no way to get into it other than a little hatch in a cupboard?
Oh, Ben, you would struggle to work in an escape room. So, like, we did one at the weekend where you had to access it through like a little cupboard dartboard thing.
Yeah,
for no reason. The shutter doors there just as, once it was a room that would have been used for something.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love
it.
Sorry.
that the why must have a core piece of banal logic to it, or nope.
I enjoy a MacGyver puzzle.
Amazing.
I enjoy a MacGyver style puzzle.
But I enjoy them too. But I note that they are almost entirely absent in real life escape rooms.
Yeah, I think too many variables, too much shit can go wrong.
I actually can't think of a single example of a true, here's some stuff, here's an objective, there's 15 different ways to do this. I genuinely can't.
I wonder whether a lot of that is down to time and just you have to think of what you want to do
and props.
And then actually being able to have the time to put things together. Like if you think about how you would actually join two things together in real life. If they didn't obviously click together, you're going to have to either know knots and knot something together, or tape it up. That'd probably get quite expensive with the amount of tape that you'd end up using. And so just going back to the puzzle, I think I'm quite glad that I put the initial room in that had just an abundance of stuff that you would need that was not necessarily specific. Because as soon as you got down into the lower room, and as soon as the phone call had been, Jamie was almost on the fact that you had to make a paper mache pumpkin. And then from there, you just sailed.
That's my boy.
But also, we completely forgot about the first room.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, we did.
I'm still thinking about
I did. I will hold my hands up and say I completely forgot about the room above us as soon as we were in the second one, which again is classic physical escape.
Which reminds me,
it's old as the hills.
Which reminds me, sorry, we said we were going to return to this. Warm apple cake and custard.
Yeah,
delicious,
fucking incredible.
I'll concede that, because I had forgotten it was apple cake. And when James said warm apple cake and custard, my mum used to make that. I'd come from school and that she'd have made. I think it was because that was it. We had a big apple tree in our garden, and this is so my parents, it hurts. This apple tree was old by the time I was an adult. So it had been there since before we were born. It was planted almost as soon as they moved in. And it was the wrong apple tree. They had been told by the seller it was eating apples, and it wasn't. It was cooking apples. Cooking apples, for those who don't know, are inedible without being doused in sugar. They are so sour, it's horrible. And this thing grew like gangbusters and produced, half a ton of apples every single year reliably. And my parents, being my parents in their full good life mode, would then try and use these apples that they didn't want and hadn't intentionally planted. They wouldn't take the tree out and go, that's not what we were sold, give us the one we asked for. They just live with it for 35 years. And still are to this day. So there was lots of apple cake because my mum would cook up these cooking apples and douse them in sugar and then do something with them.
So yeah, custard, I think we're all in agreement. The custard is a perfectly acceptable and delicious accompaniment to apple pie.
Be very, very careful,
I'll concede that.
Because most brands of custard, especially if you're buying it in a tin, they put them a very similar looking tin next to rice pudding. And while rice pudding is quite tasty, you don't want to put that on your cake.
You don't want to do that.
Not with cake, no.
I'm also just going to fly the flag here for Bird's powdered custard, because that is my childhood.
Oh, it is the war still, isn't it? It's a good point.
The blue and red and yellow plastic papery tin with the powder that's just a slightly weird colour that is not on the Dulux
And just 2 ration tokens will get you that.
Yeah, and somehow when you add hot milk, I think it is, the powder that is not yellow becomes yellow, and you get that lovely thick custard, and that is my childhood.
That sounds delicious.
Custard.
The cake that we were meant to make then, or the cake that we started making, was the whole purpose of that recipe so that we would find the tin and then unlock the second room. You spent all that time crafting this beautiful handout so that we would just open a cupboard.
So that was yes, exactly. You had to make the cake so you could find the loose bottomed cupboard that the loose bottomed tin was in, and also to get you to light the fire. And it is an actual recipe that I just copied and pasted from my store of recipes and just whacked it onto a nice background.
And that will be in the show notes, listeners, if you'd like to make Ben's Escape Apple Cake.
So, had we not made the cake, but found the cake tin and thus found the hatch, could we have completed the room without lighting the fire? No, we wouldn't have had the heat to try it.
You could have gotten through, I suppose, without doing anything. But the thing is that, like some of these things, like typically in the podcast, if you visit a bookshelf that has lots of books on, we're not going to tell you what every single book is. You come to me what you're after, and I'll say, oh yes, no, there's a copy of that. And so, if you would want to go to every single cupboard, then yes, sure, you'd have found the tin.
Not to compare our podcast to the likes of D&D roleplay, as I often do, but what you mentioned, Ben, is the difference between in like D&D when you do perception checks versus investigation, where it's just like, yeah, it's a shelf of bookcases, you see nothing out of the ordinary. Yep. What if I want to look for Hitler's secret autobiography?
Yeah. I needed there to be a nice room, the kitchen, to store stuff in that you're going to use. But I could have made a load of stuff up, like the pile of rubbish. You didn't need the oil tins, right? But I needed I couldn't just say there was chicken wire, the flex tube, and the buckets, because that would sort of give you everything just on a silver platter sort of thing. So there's a little bit there. Yeah. But in the kitchen, there was too much to kind of go, yes, there's all these things explicitly for creating both a cake and paper mache.
And then after we made our cake and left it on to cook, and we got our ceremonial marrows, we then wandered down the very nondescript stairs and into Ye Old Sex Dungeon, which was Mike's puzzle.
I wanted to do a whodunit, and I wanted to get the Thursday Fuck Club in there somewhere because it tickled me as like a terrible spin on the Thursday Murder Club. I went, so I was at the Playful Learning Conference a couple of weeks ago, and
with Richard Osman,
and we were having a really good fuck. I was at the Playful Learning Conference, and somebody did a session where they did a really kind of small potted version of a training session, kind of self-contained within a whodunit. But as part of that, they showed the underlying framework, and I went, "Oh, I see. That makes a lot of sense." So yeah, I used a variant of that framework. So the entire workings out of the interconnected kind of. And hopefully everything did feel kind of quite interconnected. The whole workings out was basically just done on a 3-dimensional table, like a very simple 3-dimensional table. There is one page of like what the crosses need to be to make it work in order for there to be basically 2 valid scenarios, one of which is artfully concealed. And that was kind of it. I just wanted to do a whodunit. I've not written a whodunit before, so it was a fun thing to do, and it was fun to kind of generate the different props. And then when I had the idea of that, I was like, okay, I'll put 3 different sets, and I'll make sure everybody gets one, because that way it'll generate some like organic discussion. Because when we were in the conference session,
nice, individual
tables solved the first bit, and they had to all compare their knowledge to solve like the meta puzzle thing. And I was like, okay, we'll just jump straight to that with you guys kind of having the bits and then working between yourself to solve things. So after I'd kind of done the room setup, I didn't really need to add much more. I was quiet for a lot of that because you guys were carrying all the exposition yourselves. So yeah, I was really chuffed with how it came out, to be honest.
Of the 3 rooms, Mike's required the least intervention once it was going, but I'd also argue Mike's had the most assets.
Yes.
The assets were the room, basically.
Yeah.
The body was almost irrelevant in what he did. I mean, it was fun and everything, but you could have just gone, there's a dead body. Who is it? Who is it? How did they die? Buff. And it would have been fine. It was all in the paper assets. But that was great. Like you could make a murder mystery around that as a kind of core. And yeah,
it was that kind of nice blend of everything you needed with a little bit more, which had it been spoken,
but only a little.
Had it been spoken, would be far too much, right? To know that someone had an allergy to penicillin, right? Completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was in an asset meant that you could nicely pull out, and it didn't feel overwhelming.
Yeah, I liked as well with the fact that we were split up into 3 different sections. Was that like I think when you, John, were reading out the tweets, like I was trying to pick up on like inflections in the way you were saying things, as if I don't know if like. You sounded like you were emphasizing things as if the text had been bolded or put into inverted commas. So I didn't know.
No, some of it was.
Okay.
Some of it was. So the bits that I hopefully the bits that I emphasized were in inverted commas. So I was trying to deliver that in a way. I mean, I probably should have, for clarity, I probably should have said speech marks, close speech marks.
Yeah.
But I chose not to.
Yeah, so I wrote those words down specifically because you'd emphasize them vocally, as if they were important, but I couldn't see that they were visually marked out in a way you'd expect in that kind of text. I thought,
and actually they weren't important.
No, but in the context of the tweets, they worked fine to emphasizing like that.
Yes.
I found it a little difficult, I think, to keep everything in my head because there was a lot.
That's
going
the idea.
On there, a lot of assets.
So the idea is. That it's kind of like it's a group social constructivist activity. So it's a group each of you kind of has like
Not constructionist.
no, constructivist.
Hey.
Different.
But correct, constructionist is different. But yeah, it's the idea is that each of you kind of bring an understanding. So each of you doesn't need to know the whole thing so much as long as you're familiar with your picture. So Ben, for example, at one point you nipped him with, but they're allergic to latex.
Yes,
At just the right moment. And it was like, bam, okay, that's that bit. That's that person solved, cut off. So as long as somebody was talking or reflecting on something and somebody else had like a rough idea of what was being eliminated in theirs, they could go, so the idea is it's kind of between the three of you creating the thing rather than necessarily one person solving it.
So we've been pedagoged. Yeah. We've been your guinea pigs.
Pedagooge.
That does sound like something that would happen.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It was fun to make that. I was really impressed with how you guys instantly kind of like get, okay, it's a whodunit, and also you went straight to the elimination method. You went, okay, we've got to cross people off. And I think, John, you said we've got to eliminate things. Ben, you started like listing suspects.
Oh, yeah.
And Jamie, you were straight on with the toys. And okay, so so basically it was a matrix of suspects and toys. And then just working out what gets kicked off. And then I was really pleased that you basically got it all in the right order, because DCI Kremlin grab, that one felt like very well hidden. The fact that if you think about it, they're applying for bail, so he's actually not free on that day.
Yeah. He's not free yet.
The fact that you came to that last was absolutely brilliant, because that was like it was supposed to come down to those two.
It felt like to me when we started doing the elimination, there was like 2 or 3 that fell away like instantaneously, and then it felt like there was a few more that were a bit more effort to do, and then when it came down to those last 2, it felt like I don't know, like until exactly that.
Yes. Yeah. I wonder. I love that it was the detail that he's applying for bail, but my only question mark over this whole thing is almost nothing had a date on it. So while we know that today's date is the 19th of July, and it was basically set today, basically, only I think the invoice had the date.
The newspaper had the date,
which meant that
on the newspaper.
Fair enough.
It was dated for the date of the murder. Then.
Yeah. I guess somehow that fell away, and I was at one point thinking, but he was applying for bail, but has he got?
Was that? I suppose. Like again, that didn't really. I glossed over that detail altogether until someone mentioned it. But I suppose had the paper been the 18th, but we'd assumed that it was the 28th of July. There was nothing to say that we were doing it on the 19th. I don't think.
No. To be fair, at any point, I think at some point, I want to say John said, "Oh, but of course it's this Friday," and you all went, "Yeah, it's this Friday." So I thought I'm not going to intervene, because that's the whole point.
Exactly,
it's this Friday. And if anybody had asked at this point, I've been, "Why? Of course, yes, it's today. It's Friday, the 19th of July, 2024, Governor."
Why are we in Christmas Carol?
Well, yeah, which is like Hotmas Carol.
With the allergies on the membership one as well, I think at first I was convinced that allergy was going to be an important factor, the gold chain allergy. And I think if it wasn't for the fact that we used it with the latex allergy, I would have sort of gone, "Oh, that's a red herring. That was deliberately there to fuck us over." But the fact that that bank of information was used elsewhere, I'm like, okay, that's set decoration to complete that information.
I think every chunk of information had a relevant piece in it. Now I'm thinking back, there was nothing that.
Yeah, so everything had at least one thing that it eliminated. So some of them you eliminated naturally, 1 or 2 actually. So for example, the gerbils you eliminated in a way I didn't expect, because you said, "Oh, they've not exploded, therefore." But I had mentioned they'd explode or bite uncontrollably. But in my original description of the gerbils, I mentioned they were still in their packaging, which you glossed over. So of course they wouldn't have used those. But also, the invoice, for example, says batteries not included, which guide you to, it needs batteries, and there are no batteries. And there's nothing to mention that the fist is made of latex until you get to the invoice, black latex.
Nice. Ironically, given the fruity and kind of wild nature of the content, this was the puzzle that could actually most easily be in a real life escape room.
Yeah.
Bizarrely, you could, talking corpse notwithstanding, you could put those assets in front of people in an escape room and say, "You're DCI, blah, blah, blah. here's the case, go. There's one
you're not
answer.
DCI, blah, blah, blah. He's in jail.
No. But you're solve a murder. Who did it? And you could just take those assets as they are with no changes, and it would function as an escape room puzzle and eat 15 minutes of a room.
Yeah.
That would be a and you could hide different paper assets around the room, and one you find at the beginning that you have to call back to, and the others you get near the end, and you find some of the weapons but not all of them, and this could be a really good sort of bring everything together that you found in this room so far. Who done
start a fuck dungeon room,
so
John, you and me?
Yeah. I feel like we should probably also apologize broadly to the Rotary Club, but also no publicity is bad publicity. So
this might be bad publicity.
Join the Thursday Fat
Maybe.
Club at the Rotary.
Maybe. Also, bear in mind that Mike's impersonation of Mercy at the end there was completely off the cuff and not scripted in any way. We hadn't figured out how we were getting out of this thing. He just made all that up, and it was horrifying, as expected. So that was a little dark window into Mike when he's off the leash.
Or on the leash. Oh, Jamie, my friend.
Yeah. IKEA mattresses, why are they not the same size as standard?
They're European
mattress sizes? Because
it's built different in Sweden.
Yeah, but we're not. If there's one thing that we decided in 2016, but even then, the standard size of British beds is X and Y.
Yeah,
and
they have.
Which means if you get them, you have to buy sheets from IKEA. Forever.
No, you just don't put them on fully.
Oh, no, they're just wrong. They're just a bit wrong.
So Ben, is there there's an international standard that we're not complying to then with bed size?
I don't know if there's an international standard.
Oh, he loves this.
So my dad exactly has the exact same bugbear with IKEA bedwear as John does, and so I was like,
Thank you.
I wonder where this is sort of
been
sourced from then. And basically there's like a British standard for bed sizes, which I have looked up in the past. There's an American standard, and there's also a European standard, and IKEA produce their beds and bed.
Oh, of course, because they wouldn't have double king and queen, would they? Because they're proper countries.
But
royalty.
Yeah, so they manufacture the same thing, and I believe just sell it everywhere. They might not sell European sizes in the US, but it would imagine for them it would be probably.
But this is the thing. I know it's about size of market as well, but this is the thing. Like, you sell something in America and you just accept, I'm going to have to use American XYZ because otherwise they're not going to deal with it. But sell something in Britain and you go, whatever.
Yeah, but I suspect that, I don't have any examples, but I suspect that that's worked time and time again. It's a really, really silly example, right? All the sweets and chocolate bars that we knew as children that have since been renamed because it fits better with an international market, right? We're small and insignificant, so we'll deal with it.
But you can take a stand because, like, the metric system applies here for most things now. You never say 3/32 of an inch or anything, or in recipes you get annoyed if something is in pounds and ounces. Now you want it in grams. But in America, all like electrical wire gauges are like, a 4.0 gauge or a 2.0 gauge. Like, it's all the stuff to do with the kind of practical world is an imperial, which is mental.
Especially considering how much effort they went to
not being part of the empire.
We don't want that, but we'll keep all of it.
But also, a lot of their imperial is not British imperial.
Wrong.
Oh
God!
So there was, I think, in the 1920s, a reconciliation of imperial, what it meant. But basically, for a long time, and I think that in certain situations it still is. Like, an American cup is not the same as a British cup, and not the same as an Australian cup.
This is it. Yes, I hate cups in cooking. What? Because it's such a terrible name. Like, say, I need a cup of this. Okay, well, I've got many cups around me. They're different sizes. I'll just grab one. Like, no. Don't name your measurement as the name of a general container. you idiot. Like, put 3 jugs of oil in your car. No. Tell me something.
By and large, it should still work. You'll end up with a greater quantity of cake batter, for instance, or a lesser
ratios,
quantity.
Isn't it?
But it's all ratios, so it should just scale up and down.
If you use the same, if you use the same cup,
half
you're
of
fine.
the same cup,
Oh God! So like, on the one hand, you've got your American cup, and then your English cup, and you're like, oh God, I can't remember which I used for the flour and for the water.
Yes.
Oh God! And then next thing you know, you're fucking the dog.
And that's how the American Revolutionary War started, ladies and gentlemen.
Ruffles, I'm so sorry, but I can't figure my way around these different imperial systems. Darling, what are you doing?
Now assume the position.
This is the only way I can figure it out.
I bet you this is how 9 out of 10 dog fucking incidents start.
Just confusion over measurements. This is why France had a revolution. Man. They were just sick of all the dog.
Oh, Jacques, Spaniel, you cannot take it anymore. I think we are going to have to kill the royalty and switch to the metric system.
Look at the Miyazaki about it, are you not?
You cannot tell which is the front and which is the back now. It is just, how you say, gaping.
I thought it would be good to reflect upon the format. Do we think this worked? Do we think it should be changed or improved? How do we think it went, guys?
It went all right.
I'd say thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up from me too.
As a non puzzle maker, I think it sounds and works well.
As someone who didn't have to do any work yet,
but will very soon.
He's got a lot of work to do.
I think the timing has worked well. I think we're a little over what I expected, but not by a tremendous amount. I think if we knew that we were going to say shoot for a little bit longer, we could probably just about fit a fourth puzzle in, should we want to, but we wouldn't do much more than that.
I like 3. I'm a big fan of the rule of 3.
Three in a pub episode works well, and it gives one of us a break.
Absolutely,
if we need to, because inevitably one of us is going to need to do something or be somewhere that means we can't come up with a puzzle.
Yeah, it really works for me. I like it.
Next time, a little longer than 2 weeks to prepare for the actual puzzle after we decide that.
We should have had 2 weeks, but that's a separate discussion for another day. Is it my fault? Both times. I like the cumulative aspect. So building the shit that other people have given you up to the last bit. So going last was actually a lot of fun. If anything, I feel like you guys next time or whoever goes first and second has the opportunity to throw some real fucking shit. I
think both John and myself kind of forgot about that, and the cake was only really something to you because you'd all bothered to do it.
Yes.
This week, I would love to recommend not running Windows so that you don't get blue screen ejected due to some Ponzi security company.
I knew he'd get this in. I knew he'd get
Feel free to build a Linux desktop or buy a Mac.
Or contact Ben Lavery-Griffiths directly.
God.
Jesus. Shameless. I have a recommendation. One is deodorant when you're doing a virtual escape room, because I sweat so much during these. Do you guys?
Oh, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, but even when it's not crazy warm, after doing one of these rooms, I'm like dripping, like I've run half a mile or something. Yeah, just half a mile. I really am unfit. But not an imperial mile, an American mile. Yeah. God, I really sweat. Recommendations. I might shoot Mike in the foot here. We did a room recently that I thought was quite good. It was an escape plan in Londinium, and we did roll out the barrel. Won't go into too many details, but we had a great host in the form of Jacob, and I thought a really well-rounded room, a very unapologetic room. And by that, I mean a room that was embracing the fact that it is an escape room and not a real-life thing, but managed to still have lots of charming puzzles, fun theming.
Haptic stuff.
Haptic stuff. Yes, everything. A lot of the stuff was made of wood, like CNC cut wood. So everything felt unified, but also everything felt specific. Very little of it felt like it had been found in a junkyard and then repurposed for this. It all felt like placed in the space, and that gave a really lovely sense of value, I thought. Just a really nice, well-judged room.
What was the theme?
Enjoyed. RAF base party.
You're trying to steal a barrel of beer from the officers to have an RAF base party.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's the end of World War II, so it's got that sort of
happy
White Cliffs of Dover sort of vibe to it, but the Nazis are kind of done.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah, I'd recommend it as well. And actually, patrons can listen to our post-room recording review thing where we talked about it in the wine bar afterwards because we're classy birds. I would recommend, I read a really good book recently, which I really enjoyed. I'm trying to remember the author. It was called... No, John. That would be...
Is it your book?
No, it's... here we go.
You cannot do this.
It's Carter Beats the Devil by Glenn David Gold. It was a period piece delight about kind of like slightly absurd comedy thing. I don't even know how to describe it. I'd really struggle to put this in a genre other than just kind of big caper. Set in that kind of golden era of American stage magic. It was beautifully written, charming. The characters are wonderful. It keeps you guessing. I really, really enjoyed it. It won a couple of awards for like first book because it was David Glenn Gold's first book. And it's just really fun and strange and weird. And I haven't read a book like it for a long time because I've been on a big sci-fi bender. So it was really lovely just to dig into that. I would strongly recommend it. And you can pick up, looking online, copies for as low as £3. I'm sure your local charity shop...
Carter Beats the Devil.
That sounds great. I will definitely check it out.
Lovely.
My recommendation, based on your puzzle, Mike, is a book called Murdle, which does all its murder logic puzzles, where you get like get a grid of suspects, weapons, and locations, and then it gives you a sort of a detective brief about the baker wasn't in the auditorium and better clues than that. But then you will, through a process of elimination, figure out the suspect, the weapon, and the location.
Cool.
And there's like 100 or more of these in a single book, and they've done like 3 books. They're good, like pick up and put down coffee table books.
That's Laura's birthday and Christmas sorted.
Oh, and they're dirt cheap as well because they're in like Waterstones. They're in the works. You can pick them up online for quite little money as well, and they're just nice, fun 5-minute puzzles.
I think it is interesting that the escape kind of puzzle industry is broadening into lower cost avenues to satiate that desire, because Frontier up 30 quid a head, and it is 30 quid a head now, reliably, to do an hour or 90-minute escape room is a lot. And we're losing a bunch of rooms because of this fact. But I think there's a lot of pivoting happening towards stuff like this, stuff like books and board puzzles and online stuff. And
I believe the proprietor of the Cog and Marrow has listened to our banter for far too long and wants us out into the cold, dark night. So we will say we love you lots, and we'll see you next time on the Infinite Escape Room. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Tatty bye.
Goodbye, brethren.
I've still got to finish off this mead, so karaoke bar, then chips afterwards, and we're done.
Yeah.
There it is.